'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. And when you find yourself in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight.
When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed to turn. Turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be true, 'tis the gift to labor till the day is through. And when you find yourself in the place so fine, 'twill be in the cool of the birch and the pine. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed to turn. Turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
Tis the gift to be joyful, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift, 'tis the gift, 'tis the simple gift to be. And when you find yourself filled with pure delight, the gift to be simple has led you aright. When true simplicity is gained.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Leifer. I'm so glad to be with you this morning. Thanks for making it here on this cold beginning of spring Sunday. If you're visiting with us for the first time, I especially want to welcome you. We hope that you will feel welcome among us here, no matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter whom you love or how you experience the sacred. We hope you'll feel welcome in the fullness of your being here. Everyone's invited to stick around after the service for lunch freely offered each week. Make your way across the atrium into the social hall. Stick around for a meal and conversation if you can. We acknowledge as we gather each week here at the intersection of arts, justice, and spirituality that we gather on the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. And we hope that we will do our part to repair the broken covenant that we've inherited, to have the humility and courage to build a new solidarity with indigenous peoples and the earth. We have a memory book at the back of the sanctuary. If there's anything ever on your heart that you'd like lifted up in our service, you can write it there and I'll read it aloud. Or you're also welcome to light a candle for a silent memory or prayer. We also sign super cards, these large poster-sized cards out in the social hall each Sunday to let people know in our community that we're thinking of them. You're welcome to sign those, invited, encouraged, even if you don't know the person, just to let them feel the warmth of our love around them. Love is what we're talking about this month of worship. We've been talking about the 5 love languages for our stewardship campaign this year, thinking about love in translation. How do we see and hear and feel love and express it in ways that might be unexpected? So that's what we're talking about for worship this morning. So glad you're here. Before we sing our first hymn, would you rise in body or in spirit? And we're just going to turn around and wave to that back camera. Those of you joining us on YouTube or Facebook, so glad that you are here. We feel your presence among us. And invite you to just turn and greet your neighbor. Wish them a happy Sunday this morning. I want to invite anyone who was born in the month of March to come on up and help light our chalice this morning, which I know includes Catherine J., Reverend Dr. Catherine J., among other staff members. Come on up, Andy. Oh, look at all these good March birthdays. We're so glad you were born. This is the truth of our tradition, that every one of us is born one more Redeemer, one more life capable of bringing joy and justice, love to a world in desperate need of it. And so we are glad you were born. It is a blessing you were born. I'll invite you to light the chalice while I share these words by the late, great sage Mary Oliver. Not anyone who says, I'm going to be careful and smart in matters of love, who says, I'm going to choose slowly, but only those lovers who didn't choose at all, but were, as it were, chosen by something invisible and powerful and uncontrollable and beautiful and possibly even unsuitable. Only those know what I'm talking about in this talking about love. Happy birthday.
I want to tell you a story this morning, but before I get started, I want to invite Stella Martin-Carey to come up and help me out. Come on up, Stella. So our story this morning is called Nasrudin's Coat. And Nasrudin's Coat is one of hundreds, maybe thousands, of Nasrudin stories that are out there. And in these stories, Nasrudin is sometimes presented as foolish, the village fool. And sometimes Nasruddin is presented as wise, the village wise man. I'll leave you to decide in this story which role Nasruddin is playing. Okay, so Stella is Nasruddin. And the context for this story is that it is the end of Ramadan. Now, if you know anything about Ramadan, during Ramadan, Muslims fast from sunup to sundown every day. And this is the end, and there's going to be a huge feast in town. And Nasruddin is really eager to go to the feast because Nasruddin is hungry. But before Nasruddin can go to the feast, Nasruddin has to finish working in the fields. And so Nasruddin is doing all the things that need to be done in the fields. And he finally finishes, and he knows that the feast has already started. And he thinks, well, I could go home, but then I'll be even later, and I think it's more important to be on time than to be clean. Yeah? And so Nasruddin goes into town, and in the middle of town there's a place where you can wash your hands. And so Nasruddin washes his hands and his face, and kind of fixes his hair a little bit, and then goes to the party. So Nasruddin knocks on the door. Richest man in town opens. He's hosting the feast. And the richest man in town looks at Nasruddin, looks up and down, doesn't say anything, doesn't say welcome, nothing. Maybe this is because Nasruddin is kind of dirty. Right? He got dirt all over his pants and all over his shirt and all over his shoes. His face is clean, hands are clean, but that's it. But opens the door, and Nasruddin comes on in. Pretty much everyone, even though Nasruddin hurried from the field, everyone is already there and sitting around the table. And no one makes space for Nasruddin. So Nasruddin, no one scooches over, no one leans back. They just look at Nasruddin and ignore him. And Nasruddin leans over to try to get some food. Nothing. Nobody is doing anything. And so Nasruddin does this for a little bit, and then despite Nasruddin's hunger, he leaves. He thinks, this is terrible. I'm going to go home. Go home. So Nasruddin goes home, and he comes back with his coat. The nicest coat that he owns. He comes back with a very clean coat. He's also cleaned up his pants a little bit. But now he has on his coat. Excellent. Roll the sleeves here. There we go. And again, Nasruddin knocks on the door. And the host opens the door and says, Nasruddin, come on in. It is wonderful to see you. And so Nasruddin, in his new shiny coat, the nicest thing he owns, goes over to the table, and people scooch over. They say, hi, Nasruddin, how are you today? And Nasruddin reaches over and takes a bunch of grapes. And he puts them in his pocket. There we go. And he says, eat, coat, eat. And then he leans over and he looks and he sees that there are cookies, a lot of cookies, an entire thing of Oreos. And he picks up those Oreos and he puts them in his pocket and he says, eat, coat, eat. At this point, the other people at the table are like, okay, what's going on here? This is a little weird. But you know, Nasruddin has a reputation. So they're like, okay, all right. And so Nasruddin leans over and takes the Greek yogurt. There's an inside pocket. Puts it in his pocket and says, "Eat, coat, eat." Okay, now more and more people are looking. The guy who's holding the party is looking. Nasruddin leans over and grabs an entire bag of fusilli. Puts it in his pocket. He's running out of room, but he makes room. He puts it in his pocket and he says, "Eat, coat, eat." There you go. Okay, now people are really staring. And Nasruddin leans over and takes the entire pack of Havarti cheese, all of it, puts it in his pocket and says, "Eat, coat, eat." At this point, the host can't take it anymore. "Nasruddin, what are you doing? What is going on?" And Nasruddin says, "When I came before without my coat, nobody would talk to me. Nobody noticed me. People were kind of rude. But when I came back in my new coat, everybody loved me and welcomed me. So clearly, it is my coat that is welcome here, not me. So they're the ones who deserve to get fed." And that is our story. Please rise in body and spirit and sing the children out with "Go Now in Peace."
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lenore Ralston, and I'm going to speak to you in the love language of generosity. I've been a member of UUCB for close to 15 years. A number of moons ago, I was chair of the endowment committee, served on the stewardship committee, and later I was your treasurer. Recently, I've seen many new faces here in the church. More children, hopeful faces, bright and happy faces, relieved faces. Something brought you here. And if you're anything like me, I spent my first year quietly weeping in the back row, so grateful to have found my spiritual home. There are many ways to support our UUCB community. Money is just one. We need dependable membership support to take care of our campus, to support our social justice initiatives, and to sustain our rich programs for all ages of our church membership. For me, our pledge drive signify my annual rededication to values and people I both love and believe in. Like many of you, I care deeply about future generations. Giving of my treasure is just one way that I can contribute and to pay it forward. This morning, the Stewardship Committee asked that I particularly speak to one of UUCB's significant fundraising efforts. In 2018, as many of you may remember, we weren't sure we would be able to remain in our current campus location. We didn't know if we would hold fast as a single community. We were underwater when it came to deferred building maintenance. We were weathering the first Trump election of 2016. And when we were hit by COVID in 2019, we had to close our physical doors. At the same time, Linda Laskowski, outgoing chair of the Endowment Committee and twice UUA board member, alerted the Endowment Committee to a significant challenge grant. Wake Now Our Vision. We in turn alerted the congregation. Those behind me are just some of the membership that stepped up, cementing their intentions into their wills and trusts for a total of $2,570,000. The outpouring of future gift generosity during such a stressful time resulted in an additional $133,000 cash in hand received in 2020. This was our here and now reward from UUA partnership with Sister UU Church Shelter Rock. All participating UU churches received money, a windfall for looking deeply into their UU values and making commitments for future giving. Roughly $4.5 million was awarded to a possible 1,027 UU congregations nationwide. And generosity begets generosity. UUCB, in turn, sent 6 giant California sequoias to Shelter Rock, New York, by way of thank you. We now share our space with many others, our schools, the First Wesleyan Church of Tonga, people celebrating marriages and those celebrating the passing of a life dearly beloved. Earlier members installed solar panels, and we now continue to work towards an all-electric campus. We are dedicated to a green campus, being one. We are making sure that our staff are paid according to UUA standards. And we continue to pay an honorific to the Ohlone people, on whose land we now celebrate our traditions. The community of UUCB lives generously, with half our plate contributions going to good neighbors, whom we all identify and then vote on at the beginning of each calendar year. We are part of so many things beyond ourselves. And again, monetary acts of generosity are only part of what our community is about. Those who give their time, their spirits, their love, all I can say is wow. I know I have missed many acts of generosity performed by both individuals and UUCB as a whole. Forgive me, there's just not enough time this morning. We have many dreams for the future. We are looking forward to hearing your dreams, perhaps on our upcoming retreat in early May. Dreams linked to hope. And practicing gives and generates hope. Practicing generosity and a commitment to all of our futures. We so welcome you. And I think, give a hand to all of these people behind me who stepped up during a really difficult time. Thank you.
I invite you to take a deeper breath, to settle more deeply into your seat, to feel in this moment, in this place, your connection down to this good, this holy earth. The revered Muslim teacher, Sufi mystic, Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, says, listen. Open a window to God and begin to delight yourself by gazing upon her through the opening. The business of love is to make that window in the heart, for the breast is illumined by the beauty of the beloved. Gaze incessantly on the face of the beloved. Listen, this is in your power, my friend. Gaze incessantly on the face of the beloved. In the eyes of your child, your spouse, your friend, your parent, in the steam rising from the kettle in the morning, in the deep hues of orange, purple, and red in the evening sky as we turn from the sun, in the pink and white blossoms of the plum trees, and the memory of their dark purple leaves that will come again, in the cheery, bright yellow daffodils, and the memory of the dull brown bulbs, and the earth limbing the crevices of your fingers, in the mud that cakes the boots, in the knowledge of the hands across oceans that made them, that passed them from place to place until they came to adorn your feet. Oh, and in your feet, your pristine or calloused feet, your cracked or smooth feet, your feet that have known dampness and fungus and freedom in warm sun with silky grass running through the toes. Gaze incessantly on the face of the beloved. The business of love is to make that window in the heart. In this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives. We gather in stillness and quiet, surrounded by the noises of life, and lift up those joys and sorrows around us. Please remember the earthquake in Myanmar, someone asks, as aid organizations are desperate for contributions. The country is in ruins and 1,600 victims so far are counted. Especially a prayer for Aung San Suu Kyi in prison. Kathleen Slobin invites us to remember Madeleine Albright, who died on Wednesday, March 26th. She worked so brilliantly as ambassador to the United Nations and the first woman Secretary of State, a hero and an example for women. Janet shares as well, let's pay tribute to a diplomat who said, as a society, I will do my best to talk, as secretary, I will do my best to talk about foreign policy, not in abstract terms, but in human terms and bipartisan terms. A remarkable human being. She was our mentor on our Fulbright year, much admired and loved. Helen Tinsley Jones, and Carrie adds her voice to this too, asks that you send lots of loving and healing energy to our friend Karen Elliott, who's experiencing the intense side effects of a bout of severe COVID. Our prayers with you, Karen. In joyful celebration with Andrea Brewer-Thompson of Joanne Weil and her pup Dash's new home as of this weekend. And Terry shares for those who might wish to visit Anne Riley, she's now residing at Lakeside Park on Perkins Street in Oakland. Mid-afternoons are perfect for visiting. Blessings of our community love to Anne. And Lindsay shares, on the 2-year anniversary of my dad's passing, I thank him for teaching me how to hold hands with despair and acceptance. I love you, Dad. Someone's remembering Richard with gratitude for this loving community and for showing the insight and warmth. We're sending love to Malia, who lost her tita yesterday. And Catherine Welch shares her heartfelt prayers for the souls and survivors in Myanmar and Thailand, that they may find respite and a way through the rubble, and prayers for the health of Zaf Felberg and all those struggling with chronic health conditions. May all beings be safe, healthy, happy, and free. For all that we have named aloud, and for all that yet remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, may we know that what each of us brings here in this sanctuary or wherever you are joining us from, it is held in the loving embrace of this community, and by that wild and nameless love that knows no bounds and cannot and will not let us go. May it be so, and amen. Let's remain seated as we sing together, Ubi Caritas, where there is love.
Ubi caritas et
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim begins Al-Fatiha, the most sacred of texts in the Quran. Something like in the name of the most gracious and merciful is often how it's translated. And yet I've heard from some Muslim scholars it's merciful is really not quite the right word because it implies there's a punishment that is being kind of withheld, and it really is meant to be more of a surrounding maternal love than that. In fact, the words Rahman and Rahim, they both come from the same root, the R and the H and the M in there. The Rahim is the root word for womb. And so we are presented first with this image of God as holding all of existence in her womb, which I know is not the way a lot of Muslims or traditional religious folks of any stripe talk about God. But we are celebrating the Trans Day of Visibility tomorrow, so if we can't call God a woman today, when would we? We're going to be talking about gender actually quite a bit for a couple of months. We're starting a series thinking about gender in April and May. We had the honor of hosting last week for an iftar for the feast that ends the fasting days of Ramadan, the Muslims for Progressive Values, here in our fireside room. Folks of every religious stripe coming to share these values that we articulate in our new 7 values with love at the center. I was first introduced to some of the teachings of Islam through Nasruddin, sometimes called Nasruddin, who was the stories told to me by our local legendary storyteller Joel Ben Izzy. Nasruddin, the trickster teacher of the Turkish tradition and surrounding areas, he was once preaching to his congregation. He was the imam of the local mosque, and he came to preach and got up in the pulpit and began by asking, "Who among you knows what I'm going to preach about today?" Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads. "No, Nasruddin, we don't know what you're going to say." And he said, "Well, if you don't even know what it is about that I'm going to preach, why should I even bother?" And he turned and left. I wake up some Sunday mornings tempted. The next Sunday, the room was packed because people wanted to figure out what was going on here. This was very strange behavior. Nasruddin, the trickster, up to something, obviously, and he got up. They had done the prayers. They had sung. He'd got up to give the sermon, and he began again in the same way. "Who among you knows what I am going to preach about?" And they knew what had happened last week, so they all raised their hands. "Oh, yes, Nasruddin, we know what you're going to say." And he said, "Well, if you already know what it is I'm going to talk about, why should I even bother?" Oh, the third week, people were coming in through the windows, the standing room only in the back. Everyone wanted to know. There was a time when religious community was really relevant to the broader world, so everybody was packing in to find out what was going on with this mosque. And so Nasruddin began again, "Who among you knows what I'm going to talk about?" And half the room, "Yeah, we know." The other half, "No, we have no idea." Everyone's kind of looking at each other in confusion. He said, "Perfect. If the half of you who know what I'm going to say could kindly tell those who don't, can save us all a lot of time." Something mysterious, something strange and unarticulatable about this thing we try and talk about in these holy moments. Another time he was sitting apparently on a pile of banana peels. Why he was sitting on a pile of banana peels, nobody knows, but he was at the market sitting on top of his pile of banana peels when someone came to ask him for wisdom because, of course, he was known to be wise as well as foolish. And so the interlocutor asked, Nasruddin, I must know, what is the secret to attaining happiness? Nasruddin nodded, looked down from his pile of banana peels and said, good judgment. And the person said, excellent. And how do I attain good judgment? Nasruddin said, experience. Good. And the person said, okay, and how do I attain experience? And Nasruddin said, bad judgment. Okay, one more. There's thousands of these. These are ones that I love, I treasure. Nasruddin, he's coming to the bathhouse, and he is dressed in rags. He was like he was coming to that feast, right? Smelly and dirty and a mess. The attendant took one look at him and said, Nasruddin, go use the last stall on the left. That's the one I haven't cleaned yet. Nasruddin, okay. Goes and he takes his bath and he comes out, and as he's leaving, he comes out with a giant gold coin to give to the attendant for a tip. This amazing, huge quantity of money, and the attendant is shocked and looks at him and says, thank you, Nasruddin. And the next week, when Nasruddin comes for his bath, the attendant is ready. He is on his best behavior. He's sharp. He says, Nasruddin, please, this one, I've got it all ready for you. There's scented oils and all the best shampoos and soaps. And Nasruddin takes a long, luxurious bath in the hot water. And when he's done and leaving with a smile on his face, he reaches into his pocket to the attendant who's holding out an expectant hand and offers a copper penny. And the attendant says, what? This doesn't make any sense. Last week you gave me a gold coin, and this week it was so much better. And Nasruddin said, last week was for this week. This is for last week. There's something about these trickster stories. They inevitably turn to turning the social order on its head, to asking not just how do we love in this hard and complicated world, but how do we love in the face of so much injustice? How do we love in a world where our own lives are caught up in complicit acts every day of participating in a system of injustice that does not comport with our values? Justice is what love looks like in public, says Cornel West. And those of us who are used to having some say in what the public square looks like. Those of us who come from a social location where we assume we have some agency and power, we can, in a moment like this, find ourselves in despair, unable to find a ground beneath ourselves to stand on if our liberal politics are not able to sway an authoritarian movement hell-bent on destroying some of the institutions we hold most dear. When we are confronted with the limitations of our power and agency, we are asked to go deeper, to find a deeper source, a more mysterious place to rest our agency upon. And the trickster is showing this playfully, even lovingly, revealing the injustice without directing any harm or anger at those perpetrating it. The playfulness allowing truth and love to coexist more easily, like Liz was talking about with us last week. It's what I was enchanted by when I got a chance to study for some time with Ibrahim Baba, we called him, Ibrahim Farajaje at Star King School for the Ministry, who was a once priest, Eastern Orthodox priest turned Sufi sheikh, pir, in the tradition, an Indian tradition of Islam. He would tap into the lineage of mystic love that allowed for playful ways to encounter this wondrous mystery. He would lead us in zikr, in the Sufi practice of remembrance, is really literally what it means, to gather around, and we would sing the chants and bob our heads. There was an embodied quality to the worship. And he said that this motion, as you would move and sing, it was like a washing machine for your heart. And who couldn't use a little washing machine for your heart? This playfulness, this pointing towards a mystery that Daniel Ladinsky captures. He's a poet who, maybe it's a kind of trickery. It has some problematic elements to it. He says that his poems are translations of the Sufi teacher Hafiz. They're not. They're his own inventions inspired by Hafiz's work. But in his playful, mysterious, trickster mode, he has gained great popularity bringing some of Hafiz's wisdom, some of this Sufi teaching in a modern, contemporary, Western voice. Admit something, he says. Everyone you see, you say to them, love me. Everyone you see, you say to them, love me. Of course you do not do this out loud. Otherwise someone would call the cops. Still though, think about this great pull in us to connect. Why not become the one who lives with a full moon in each eye, that is always saying with that sweet moon language what every other eye in this world is dying to hear? Why not become the one who lives with a full moon in each eye? I had a religious moment in the Costco parking lot once. I was cramming my visit to Costco into a very busy and important day, which is not a good idea to begin with. But as I was rushing to fill my big packs of groceries into the back of the car, I was tempted for a moment to leave my giant cart right there in the middle of the parking lot. Have you ever been tempted by such a misdeed? Oh, I'm glad I'm not alone. I was so tempted that I was turning on my way back, and then I saw him. I saw an employee of Costco standing there on his break, leaning up against the side of the building, smoking a cigarette. And we made eye contact. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave my cart in the parking lot after seeing him see me. And I don't think he cared, actually. But there was something about being witnessed, about being taken in, about being known, that reminded me of that word we say every week in our mission, integrity, about what it meant to answer love's call in that moment, in the Costco parking lot, in a busy day. It's so unexpected where we find what I think of as the flirtations of the holy. Have you had flirtations of the holy? I know not everybody likes the God language, but do you know what I'm talking about when I say that? You know, one of the oldest pieces in that ancient book of poetry, the Hebrew Bible, the most ancient text is that Song of Solomon, the love poem. It starts out with this: "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers." I don't think we talk about the Song of Solomon enough. There's this underlying message in this oldest of Scripture. God wants to make love with us. And so we're asked over and over again in religious tradition after religious tradition to love God with all your heart, to love life with all your heart, to love this wild and crazy cosmos with all your heart. And so I wonder, how is it going, your courtship with God? Do you pretty much have things all worked out? Or are you still surprised, still delighted by the mysteries that unfold? Have you revealed all there is to reveal about yourself, or do you have some secrets yet? Still allowing more of yourself to unfold and be discovered in this dance of love. When we talk about it this way, when we use this word love that has been, squashed by Hallmark and other entities in our culture to try and make it something we can really understand as if it were small enough to comprehend. And I worry about, that's the only thing I worry about when we say love is at the center of our theology, that we think we know what we mean. Because when I say love, I have no idea what I'm really talking about. But I do love the admonition not to confuse the lover, not to confuse our human love in all of its importance with the beloved. This is what they were trying to wrestle with, I think, in defining these different terms of Greek love, right? You know how many, there were 5, I think, different words in Greek for love, and they meant different categories to neatly distinguish eros from filial love, from agape, famously. I'm not sure it's so easy to separate these things. In that famous first passage of the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, agape is the love being defined. And I'm really not trying to take an assault on Paul here, but I've always felt the passage falls so dismally short. Love is patient, except when your kid is about to do something so unbelievably stupid that grabbing their hand or yelling stop before some catastrophic consequence befalls them. And love is kind, except when love requires you to set a firm boundary and hold your ground in the face of a tantrum by someone who's considering you anything but kind. Love is not envious, unless perhaps that envy is pointing toward the ways in which you have outgrown the shape of your life. And love wants you to reach for more. Or boastful or arrogant or rude, except when love is so intoxicating in its exuberance it can't be contained in typical polite social nicety. It does not insist on its own way unless you know the love of a 2-year-old for sandwiches cut in just the right shapes. It's not irritable until it loses a few nights of sleep. It keeps no records of wrongs until it learns about healthy accountability. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth, which I'll give Paul that one. The passage ends, it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And I'm here to say, if you've been enduring something you should not be enduring, that is not love. That text, it's a foundational text in the self-sacrificing version of Christian love that has been twisted to convince the vulnerable that their suffering at the hands of the powerful is an expression of religious devotion, and it's not. My teacher, Rebecca Parker, tells a story of a woman who came to her once early in her ministry asking her advice. She said, maybe because you're a woman priest, you'll know. She came to her to tell her the story of her abusive husband who had hit her and belittled her for years. When she had gone to talk to her Catholic priest about it, he had said, that brings you closer to Jesus, to rejoice in your suffering. But now he was starting to hurt her kids. And so she wanted a second opinion, and she came to Rebecca and she said, what your priest told you is not true. God wants you to protect your life and your children's lives, not sacrifice them. And she smiled, and she said, good, I knew I was right. And Rebecca says, beginning that day, she took steps that freed her and her children from an abusive situation. It took a new theological framework for her to survive. Love is not a stoic rigidity, not a strict adherence to abstract principles, but a creative presence, a determined engagement, a refusal to give up on oneself or the other. A searching embrace of the world that is always seeking to translate even the most incomprehensible expressions into love. To find a way of sharing love that can reach even the most shut-off heart. In these times, what creativity, what joy, what beauty, what mercy, what justice. Of the 99 names of God, which is to say, the endless possibilities in this universe, what call is love making on your life? Only those lovers who didn't choose at all, but were, as it were, chosen by something invisible and powerful and uncontrollable and beautiful and possibly even unsuitable. Only those know what I'm talking about in this talk about love. May it be so, and amen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Helen Tinsley Jones, a member of your Board of Trustees. Each month, we share our offerings from the Sunday worship services with local nonprofit organizations serving the community, particularly those serving people in need. A different group is selected each month to receive these funds. This month's Good Neighbor is the Emeryville Citizens Assistance Program. ECAP's mission is to unconditionally distribute surplus food, care, and compassion to those in need in Emeryville, Oakland, and surrounding Bay Area communities. ECAP provides nutrition to approximately 300 families and individuals daily, 6 days a week. They also need a new truck to pick up food offered by vendors, and your contribution helps. You can make your donation and contribution by using the envelope you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you and deposit it in the box in the atrium, or by using the QR code on the back of your badge. Your donation is accepted with love and gratitude. Please join me in dedicating our offerings and ourselves to the mission of this congregation.
We dedicate our offerings, ourselves, to the mission of this congregation, to create love and community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
Thank you very much.
I want to lift up a few things happening in the life of our community. There's always lots going on. Next week, we've got our Pathways to Connection class starting again. It's next Sunday and the Sunday following. This is the opportunity if you want a little bit more about how to get involved in our community, what it means to become a member here, some history of Unitarian Universalism, and just a chance to get to know some of the other folks who've been showing up lately. It's a great opportunity to get connected. So I look forward to joining whoever can be there for that class after the service the next 2 Sundays. Also, before the service next Sunday, if you can come early, we're going to have a little talk at the personal theology that I'll share about some thoughts on evil. So if that's of interest to you, come early next Sunday. Family movie night is going to be April 11th. Reverend Catherine has been organizing that. I'm really looking forward to watching. I think we're watching Flow. So come if you can. Join me and Henry and whoever else can be there. We'll have dinner and movie and a good time. And then all the month of April, our Climate Justice Committee and others from the Social Justice Council have been organizing activities to highlight our love and our centering of the earth in our moral framework. And so we're having a whole lot of activities. You can see the posters in the atrium and around highlighting those activities. I want to lift up a couple of things to register for ahead of time. There's a conference that's around our Lawrence lecture, bringing out a fabulous speaker, Ruha Benjamin, on April 19th. It's Easter weekend, so plan to come either just for the lecture or that whole weekend if you can. And then 2 weeks after that, we're having a leadership conference that first weekend of May, and I understand they're registering folks for that out in the atrium today, trying to get as many people signed up. I think by tomorrow is the soft deadline. If you'd like to come join us, and just thinking about what does it mean to live our values as a congregation in this time, and how can we create a culture of leadership here that inspires and fulfills our own spiritual needs as well as invites others in. So join us for that weekend, the first weekend of May if you can as well. Always lots happening. You can find out more every week on our website under the week ahead. Let's rise in body or in spirit to sing our final hymn, What Wondrous Love Is This?
My soul, oh my soul, what wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. Sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, beneath my sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul. I will sing, to love and to all friends I will sing, to love and to all friends, to pain and sorrow met, with thanks unto the end I will sing, with thanks unto the end I will sing.
Do you reach out a hand or touch a shoulder or just reach out to that mysterious love all around us? Love is bold. Love is creative. Love has boundaries. Love is fierce. Love is wild. Love is you and me. Love is us together. Love is this great earth community. Interconnected, one body, depending on each other more than we know. Amen.